After getting into university, my educated youth husband wanted to sell his admission spot. I sold my blood to pay his tuition and served as his live-in maid for 4 years, all so he could study without a care in the world. Later, he rose to become an academician, achieving fame and success. Yet, after my sister-in-law died in childbirth, he slaughtered my entire family. It's all your fault, and your brother's. For tearing Chanchan and me apart back when we were sent down to the countryside together. If I had just sold my university spot back then to get Chanchan back, she would never have had to suffer through a life of hardship with your brother, only to be killed by him. So, in the end, both my brother and I loved the wrong person. After being reborn, I found myself back on the day we were estimating our college entrance exam scores. Shuqing, I'm projected to be top of the class. I'm planning to apply to Tsinghua. They say this spot can fetch a hefty price. I looked at my own projected score, 30 points higher than Gu Mingxing's. This time, I'm not playing your game. Seeing my silence, Gu Mingxing glanced at the score sheet in my hand and offered a half-hearted consolation. For a country girl like you, scoring around 100 points is pretty good. Don't get your hopes up. By the way, did you hear what I just said? I nodded. Sell it if you want. He didn't expect me to be so understanding. Overjoyed, he moved to kiss my cheek. A Tsinghua University admission spot could fetch a pretty penny. I'll go to the supply and marketing cooperative and buy you some new clothes with the money. I deftly sidestepped the gesture. That won't be necessary. Just pay me back for all the expenses I covered for your schooling and exam preparations. Gu Mingxing was stunned. Are you trying to break up with me? Is it just because I'm not going to Tsinghua, and you won't get to show off in the village anymore? I shook my head, but he snapped out of his stunned anger and let out a cold, disdainful laugh. A country girl will always be a country girl, with such a narrow view of the world, so I sold my admission spot this year. Do you really think I won't be able to get in next time? Fine, let's break up then, Shuqing. Don't you dare regret this in the future. Watching his resolute figure walk away, I tore the scrap paper with my score estimates into shreds. In my past life, I supported Gu Mingxing through his studies. I cooked and washed for him by day, and kept him company as he burned the midnight oil. I signed up for the college entrance exam with him, hoping to prove I was worthy of him. After he estimated he'd be the top scorer, he couldn't wait to list Tsinghua University as all 3 of his choices. I knew Tsinghua University only had 1 admission slot for our city. Silently, I burned my college application and the score estimate that was 30 points higher than his. When Gu Mingxing suddenly suggested selling his admission slot, I was convinced, with all my heart, that he couldn't bear to see me sacrifice any more of my youth to support his lofty ambitions. Little did I know, he was only thinking of buying Wen Chanchan back. Wen Chanchan was an educated youth who went to the countryside with him, unable to endure the hardship of farm labor. She soon took the initiative to meet a matchmaker and married my brother. My brother and I were both born and raised as farmers, and we held a natural admiration and reverence for the educated class. Back then, matchmakers practically wore out our doorstep trying to set him up, but he wouldn't budge. Yet the moment he laid eyes on Wen Chanchan, he went home, pulled out the dowry savings he'd scraped together for over a decade, and handed it all to her as a betrothal gift. After they married, I took care of all the household chores while my brother worked the fields to earn a living. My sister-in-law's hands never touched a speck of dust. Years later, Gu Mingxing kept lamenting how he regretted not rescuing Wen Chanchan from my brother back then, letting her suffer in misery for half a lifetime, only to be killed by him in the end. It wasn't until the moment he strangled me, his eyes blazing red, that the truth finally dawned on me. So, Gu Mingxing and Wen Chanchan had pledged themselves to each other long ago. Their marriages to others were nothing but a desperate compromise. My brother and I were just the hapless fools they bled dry. Theirs was the real love story. In this life, I have no intention of handing over my future to anyone else. Gu Mingxing intends to sell his Tsinghua University admission spot to redeem Wen Chanchan. Perfect. I'll wait with him for the day the acceptance letters arrive. The news that Gu Mingxing had the highest estimated score quickly spread throughout the entire village. A few days later, he kicked my door open and tossed down a handful of 10 yuan bills with a flourish. Consider the debt to your family. The shoes, paid in full with interest. Don't mention it. Looks like he'd already bragged in the black market and sold off his university spot in advance. Not even waiting the 7 days for the official admission letter to arrive, I glanced at the floor. There were roughly 80 to 100 yuan scattered about. The national college entrance exams had just been reinstated the previous year, and Gu Mingxing failed to make the cut. To support him through another year of focused study, I spent my entire life's savings to get my hands on a precious, complete set of review materials. He studied late into the night every day, so I would scrounge up meat and fish, preparing them in different ways to keep his strength up, that is, until one day. He noticed I was still wearing long sleeves even in the summer heat. When I rolled up my sleeve, it revealed a dense cluster of needle marks. Gu Mingxing stood there stunned for a long moment, his eyes growing red as he pulled me into a tight embrace. I can't wait any longer. Marry me, Xiaoqing. I swear I'll get into the best university, and make everyone in the village envy you for marrying the right man. After that day, we held a simple wedding banquet. Gu Mingxing felt guilty that he couldn't even afford a single cent for a bride price, let alone the 3 rounds and 1 sound, so he made a firm promise with a resolute look. The day I get into university next year will be the day Xiaoqing and I officially register our marriage. If I fail, I won't shamelessly hold her back. In my past life, I waited for that day for a very long time, but it turned out that in Gu Mingxing's eyes, everything I had given was worth no more than 100. Principal and interest combined. I wasn't about to turn down money, especially since I still needed to save up for my university living expenses. Just as I was about to pick up the money, my brother came out of the house and, suppressing his anger, pushed Gu Mingxing away. How could you face Xiaoqing after this? But in the next instant, my sister-in-law threw herself in front of Gu Mingxing, her voice trembling. Xu Lang, if you want to kill me, go ahead, but lay one finger on Mingxing and see what happens. Gu Mingxing looked on, his heart aching with a surge of gratitude and emotion. Her brother was utterly dumbstruck. The very next day, when Qianqian, arm in arm with Gu Mingxing, divorced her brother, it seemed Gu Mingxing had sold his university admission slot for a hefty sum. With his newfound wealth, he not only paid off her bride price to secure her freedom but also lavished her with all manner of fine clothes and jewelry. Soon enough, gossip began to spread through the village. Some mocked my brother and me for ending up with nothing, while others scorned Wen Qianqian for her shamelessness, but no one said a word against Gu Mingxing. After all, he was practically a shoo-in for Tsinghua University, with a future as bright as could be. I ignored the gossip around me and focused on packing my bags. When Qianqian, however, sought me out on her own, wearing a stylish new dress. It hasn't been easy for you, staying by Mingxing's side all this time, even selling your blood to support his studies, but after a year of serving him in that ambiguous way, you're now damaged goods that nobody wants. You'd better be smart and stop hanging around him, or I'll report you for your promiscuous behavior. I couldn't help but laugh. So she was worried that after Gu Mingxing sold his spot and stayed in the village to repeat the year, I'd try to win him back. I said flatly, no matter how prized that cut of pork might be, it's still from a rank stud boar. I don't want to be around the stench, so of course I wouldn't hover around him. When Qianqian simply thought I was saying it out of spite, a smirk played on her lips. She suddenly raised her hand toward me, only to bring it down in a sharp slap against her own face. Someone shoved past me from behind in a furious rush, swiftly moving to shield Wen Qianqian. Burying her face in Gu Mingxing's chest, she sobbed, her hands covering her cheeks. I've gotten used to it this past year. Whenever she or her brother are in a bad mood, they yell at me, threaten me, curse me. It's nothing, really. Gu Mingxing's temple throbbed with rage. Before I could react, he kicked me hard into the river. A vile country bumpkin like you isn't worth a single hair on Qianqian's head. I'd be sickened even if you bled yourself dry for me. After I was rescued, I fell ill for 2 days. However, after this incident, my brother was completely disillusioned with Wen Qianqian. As the time when my admission letter had arrived in my past life drew near, he accompanied me to the provincial capital to buy new clothes. Inside the department store, however, 2 familiar figures came walking straight toward us. Gu Mingxing's gaze fell on my pale face, and his brow furrowed slightly. When Qianqian, on the other hand, wore an expression of someone with backing, no longer afraid of us country siblings. Her eyes filled with disdain, the moment she saw my brother spending money on me, his ex-sister-in-law. She couldn't help but scowl, her patience wearing thin. Xiaoqing, for a sister-in-law, you sure have the nerve to keep sponging off your brother. I let out a cold laugh. Ever since she married into the family, I haven't asked my brother for a single cent, even when times were tough and I'd rather have sold my own blood. I never wanted to disturb the peace of their little family. I knew all too well how much my brother had loved Wen Qianqian back then, and I didn't want to put him in a difficult position. Now that she sees Gu Mingxing has a bright future ahead of him, she kicks my brother to the curb to chase after a better prospect. And she has the nerve to lecture us siblings. Coincidentally, my brother had me try on a Shanghai brand watch, saying it would come in handy for the trip to the capital. I really liked it. Just as my brother pulled out the money and the industrial coupon to buy it, A thick stack of 10 yuan bills was suddenly slapped down on the counter in front of us. I'll pay 30 more. Wrap this watch up for me. It's for my fiancé, Gu Mingxing declared to Wen Qianqian with bravado. But his eyes shot a cold glance my way. The sales clerk was taken aback for a moment, while I asked calmly, shouldn't there be a proper order to things? Gu Mingxing thought I was jealous. He curled his lip in a faint sneer and said, that's right, Qianqian was here first. You, the latecomer, don't deserve it. I'll add another 50, wrap it up. After that, no matter what my brother and I took a liking to, he would always beat us to it by offering more money. Surrounded by the envious gazes of everyone in the mall, when Qianqian beamed with joy, laden with shopping bags, she cast a look of pity in our direction. Mingxing will get into university again next year, take me to the capital, and we'll live a life of luxury you couldn't even begin to imagine. You and your siblings are doomed to a life of backbreaking farm work and selling your blood just to get by. You'd better save your money. We're only saying this for your own good. Don't you think you should be thanking us? Gu Mingxing watched my reaction, a faint arch to his brow. I said softly, Mingxing, I really do have to thank you. If it weren't for wanting to be more worthy of him, if it weren't for staying up late with him every night, studying by lamplight, if it weren't for trying to save him time, traveling dozens of miles each time to consult the teacher, mastering the problems he didn't understand myself, and then coming back to explain them to him, I would never have achieved such a high score. Knowledge is the key to changing one's destiny. Gu Mingxing was taken aback for a moment, thinking I was putting on a brave face. With a dismissive snort, he put his arm around Wen Qianqian and walked away. I noticed the meager amount of money left in his increasingly empty pocket. I exchanged a glance with my brother and smiled. The next day was the anniversary of receiving the admission letter in my past life. That night, I had a rare dream. Reliving the final, agonizing scene from my past life, and woke up drenched in cold sweat. Just then, the crackle of firecrackers erupted outside the window. Gu Mingxing's triumphant laughter drifted in from outside. Getting into Tsinghua, there's one person I owe the most thanks to. If it weren't for Qianqian's quiet, unwavering support all this time, I never could have made it. When Qianqian listened to his heartfelt confession, her eyes glistening with tears, I stood outside the long, lavishly set up banquet tent hosted by Gu Mingxing, a slight frown creasing my brow. When Qianqian was the first to notice me, she brushed her hair back, revealing a new watch on her wrist, and offered a magnanimous, forgiving smile. Shu Qing, you're here. Come, sit down. I specifically asked Mingxing to save you a seat. Gu Mingxing also cast a haughty glance my way, as if he had long anticipated my arrival. With a mocking glint in his eyes, he continued, the second person I want to thank is you, Shu Qing. If it weren't for you throwing yourself at me without any real commitment, and then heartlessly breaking up with me right before the college entrance exam results came out, I never would have had the chance to connect with Qianqian. An awkward tension settled over many faces at the table, as if anyone didn't know Wen Qianqian is my ex-sister-in-law. But all I cared about was what he just mentioned. Gu Mingxing, are you saying the scores are already out? The village party secretary at the table beamed as he stood up, seizing the moment to announce, young Gu here has scored the highest in the entire city. He's really brought great honor to our county. When Qianqian looked at Gu Mingxing with admiration, exactly. It's a full 30 points higher than the score he originally estimated for himself. Wow, that's impressive. Looks like Gu Jiqing was being way too modest back then. Amidst the chorus of gasps and envious murmurs, he gave a casual, dismissive wave of his hand. I didn't expect to perform that well myself. I couldn't help but chuckle. Gu Mingxing, you really didn't see this coming, did you? He frowned, then let out a derisive snort. Shu Qing, I told you not to regret this. So, you're deliberately showing up in front of me now, trying to get my attention, hoping to win me back. With a contemptuous tone, Gu Mingxing pulled the bashful Wen Qianqian closer. I forgot to mention, today's feast isn't just to thank the villagers for supporting my studies, it's also my wedding banquet with Qianqian. After she married into the Shu family, you and your brother constantly abused and bullied her. Even after the divorce, you didn't let her go, smearing her reputation with accusations of impropriety. She's willing to let bygones be bygones and even invited you to the feast. But I'm not that forgiving. With that, Gu Mingxing kicked over the chair right in front of me. The room instantly buzzed with whispers. Tisk tsk, the Shu siblings really ended up with nothing. Serves them right. Who told her to be so short-sighted? Jumping at a cheap deal is just plain stupid. When Qianqian's eyes shimmered with moved and happy tears as she buried her face in Gu Mingxing's chest, yet she secretly curled her lip at me. Just then, the teacher came jogging over excitedly with the city's party committee leaders in tow. The Tsinghua University acceptance letter has arrived. this is the only admission spot in the entire city, what an honor. Gu Mingxing, now the center of attention, beamed with pride, struggling to contain his elation. He reached out to take it, saying, "This honor, it doesn't belong to me alone." His voice suddenly cut off. Then I saw the teacher, holding the unopened admission letter, swiftly reached past his hand and place it directly into mine. Gu Mingxing watched me take the letter, stunned for just a moment before his brow furrowed, and he declared, "Teachers, everyone, I have already broken up with Shu Qing. I never even married her legally, and I've long since repaid everything I owed the Shu family. She has no right to lay a finger on my admission letter. I have nothing more to do with the Shus." The teacher looked utterly bewildered, glancing at him, then back at me. "Mingxing, but this admission letter is for..." Before I could even open the envelope, when Qianqian snatched it right out of my hands, she declared with righteous indignation, "Everyone, Mingxing did date her, but only because Shu Qing threatened him with the story of her selling blood. Mingxing has a soft heart. He couldn't bear to see the girl ruin herself, so he was forced into the relationship back then. If you don't believe me, just look." She yanked my sleeve open, revealing the dark, shocking bruises on my arm. Now that she sees Mingxing got into Tsinghua University, she regrets breaking up too soon. That's why she's causing a scene with all the leaders here, trying to win him back through threats. The crowd gasped as they saw the needle marks on my arm. I always said, how could Comrade Gu have ever been interested in a little country girl like her, trying to keep a man by selling your own blood? Ugh, how utterly pathetic. The jeers and taunts around me felt like boiling oil, scalding the dense web of scars on my arm. I desperately tried to cover them, but when Qianqian had already torn my sleeve, Gu Mingxing watched with cold indifference, fully aware this was my deepest, most humiliating secret, yet his expression showed not a shred of pity. The village party secretary, fearing I was really there to cause trouble today, waved his hand, intending to have someone drive me away. Just then, another group of people hurried over from outside the shed. "It's the director of Tsinghua University's admissions office," the director said with a hearty laugh. "We heard your village produced a top scholar, so I've come to deliver the scholarship." The stack of crisp new 10 yuan bills in her hand was no small sum. When Qianqian's eyes sparkled with delight, but in the next instant, she shot a worried glance at Gu Mingxing. Their gazes subtly shifted toward a certain figure in the corner of the banquet. That person was none other than the middleman for the black market trade in university admission slots. Gu Mingxing himself hadn't expected his scores to be so outstanding. Keeping a low profile was out of the question. To make matters worse, the head of Tsinghua University's admissions office had come in person. He whispered reassuringly, "It's all right, we have the scholarship now, don't we? At worst, we can use that money to pay it back. We won't need to sell the spot." When Qianqian, overjoyed and overwhelmed, tightly grasped his hand, then, Gu Mingxing declared with soaring ambition, "Qianqian, I'll take you to the capital this very year." That scholarship had everyone present green with envy. "Well, I'll be, who knew studying and taking exams could actually earn you money? That's a stroke of incredible luck, Comrade Gu. Wait, I mean, top scholar Gu, when you have a moment, could you give my two boys some pointers? I'm not expecting them to get into Tsinghua or anything. If any university would just take them, it'd be like our Lu family ancestors were smiling down from the grave." I was jostled to the back by the eager crowd surrounding Gu Mingxing when a sudden warmth spread across my arm. It was my teacher, who had gently covered me with his coat out of concern. She knows perfectly well how I've managed everything for Gu Mingxing this past year, creating the conditions for him to focus on his studies without a worry. "Shu Qing, what on earth is going on between you and Mingxing? Did you really break up?" I thought my heart had long turned to deadwood, incapable of any further stirring, yet now, faced with my teacher's concerned gaze, my eyes suddenly stung with tears. "Yeah, we broke up." Amidst the cheerful, celebratory crowd, Gu Mingxing, without a word, pressed the thick stack of scholarship money into Wen Qianqian's hands. The teachers seemed to have finally understood something, their gaze slowly darkening. Gu Mingxing, beaming with pride, basked in the glory of the moment. Passing the imperial examinations and the wedding night are two of life's greatest joys. Just as he thought he would remember this day forever, he was abruptly called out. Gu Mingxing turned his head and saw the teacher pulling me through the crowd. His brow furrowed coldly. "Teacher Lin, I am grateful for your guidance, but if you're here to plead someone's case by playing the victim, you can save your breath." "Mingxing," the teacher cut in with a stern tone, "since you've already broken things off with Shu Qing, do me this favor. Be a decent person about it and part ways with her amicably, on a fine day like today." You really shouldn't be scheming after Shuqing's scholarship. If this blows up into a big scene, it'll be embarrassing for everyone. Everyone present thought they must have misheard. Gu Mingxing froze for a moment, as if he'd just heard the most absurd joke imaginable. His face fell. Mr. Lin, what are you talking about? Am I the one making a scene? It's clearly Shuqing who's shamelessly clinging to me today, refusing to part on good terms. He, like everyone else, obviously thought the teacher had simply misspoken. Under the teacher's encouraging gaze, I stepped forward. My voice was cool, yet it carried unmistakable conviction. Gu Mingxing, I told you so. You never could have imagined scoring that high, because the top score was mine. I, Shuqing, make clean breaks and have no regrets. I'll just consider that year of my youth wasted on a pig, but what a shame. Today I finally realized you're worse than that damn stud boar back in the village. You even had the gall to steal my college entrance exam score and my university admission spot. It wasn't just Gu Mingxing. A look of utter disbelief and shock appeared simultaneously on the faces of all the surrounding leaders. Gu Mingxing looked around, then let out a disbelieving, gritted teeth laugh. Shuqing, out of consideration for the year you've spent serving me for nothing, I won't hand you over to the police today for ruining my big day with your wild accusations. But if you keep acting like a lunatic, don't blame me for being ruthless. A loud bang suddenly came from behind. When Qianqian had accidentally knocked over the banquet table, she had already opened that letter of admission. Her plan was to read it aloud in front of everyone, to clear Gu Mingxing's name and crush my hopes for good. The moment her eyes landed on the name glaring back at her from the notice, her pupils froze. Wine bottles, bowls, and chopsticks clattered and crashed to the floor from the table. Gu Mingxing's brow twitched violently, noticing when Qianqian had already opened the envelope. He told her to read it aloud. Qianqian, it's all right. You are my fiancé now. That brother and sister from the Shu family won't dare bully you anymore. Go on, read it out loud. Yet, when Qianqian's lips trembled, her face gradually paling as she lifted her gaze to meet his in alarm, Gu Mingxing, not understanding why she was dawdling, strode over and snatched the admission letter from her hands, his heart burning with impatience. He had just opened his mouth with a triumphant air when his expression abruptly shifted. What's going on here? He looked again and again, even raising a hand to rub his eyes hard. Mingxing, what on earth happened? The village party secretary didn't know the details. He had heard first thing that morning that the top score in the entire city had come from his own village, and had rushed over in a hurry to offer his congratulations. Gu Jiqing himself had clearly claimed to be the top scorer in the village's estimation. Who else could the top scholar be? If not him. Only now did the village party secretary realize something must have gone wrong. Gu Mingxing suddenly looked up, his gaze passing over the crowd and fixing directly on me. His breathing grew ragged as he muttered, how can this be? How can this possibly say Shuqing's name? His voice was barely a whisper, laced with a panic he himself didn't recognize, yet, everyone present heard him clearly. The once raucous banquet hall fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Gu Mingxing stared at me, his mind a complete blank, sensing something was wrong. As if a realization had dawned, he suddenly looked down and began frantically rubbing at the name on the admission letter. He muttered to himself, this can't be, someone must be playing a trick. I'm the only top scorer admitted to Tsinghua. I'm the one who, ugh. Before I could step forward, my brother had already thrown a heavy punch right into Gu Mingxing's face. He snatched back the admission letter that was nearly torn. Gu Mingxing fell to the ground in a sorry state, his glasses shattering. Yet, as if he felt no pain, he scrambled to his feet and pointed in our direction. What the hell are you doing? This is my acceptance letter. Mine. Then, remembering something in a flash, he turned to seek out the higher-ups to plead his case. Shuqing is an illiterate country bumpkin. How could she possibly get into Tsinghua University? This is an absolute joke. However, the head of the admissions office stepped forward, fixing him with an icy stare. I knew the admitted student was supposed to be a young woman. I thought there must have been a mistake with the notification I received, so it was an imposter. What? Now that you've been exposed, you want to turn the tables and question the fairness and standards of Tsinghua's admissions process. Gu Mingxing, not daring to offend the admissions office official, swallowed hard and stammered an explanation. That's not what I meant. His gaze shifted back to me, shielded by my brother. Beads of cold sweat dotted my forehead, a vein throbbed at my temple, but I forced a calm smile. Shuqing, no wonder you insisted on registering for the college entrance exam with me. You had such a vicious scheme in mind all along. We were in the same exam hall. You must have found a way to cheat off me, or secretly swapped our answer sheets. Yes, that has to be it. I pressed down on my brother's fist, which had clenched tight again, and let out a soft chuckle. Gu Mingxing, are you seriously suggesting that I, the top scorer, would need to cheat off your paper when you scored 30 points lower than me? The next moment, the others caught on as well. And bursts of mocking laughter began to ripple through the crowd. Exactly, how on earth could someone with a score miles ahead of yours possibly need to copy from you? As for his so-called ironclad accusation that I swapped the test papers, not only teacher Lin and the admissions director, but even the municipal party committee officials stepped forward. Their expressions grave. The top scorer in the National College entrance exam is a matter of our city's honor. It's not something you can casually smear. Gu Jiqing, if you genuinely believe your score was unjustly handled, we will investigate and ensure you receive fair treatment. But if it turns out you are simply spreading malicious rumors to slander our city's top scorer, you will be held fully accountable for the consequences. Gu Mingxing's knees buckled, and he half collapsed to the ground. In an instant, all the admiring and eager gazes around him turned into looks of astonishment, pity, and scorn, when Qianqian had been standing behind him all along, facing the varied stares of the onlookers. She was utterly mortified, her palms slick with sweat. To this day, she still hasn't figured it out. How on earth did Gu Mingxing's name on the perfectly fine admission letter get changed to Shu Qing's? Just as she steeled herself and stepped forward to help Gu Mingxing up, the wad of cash she was still clutching tightly was heartlessly snatched away by Xu Lang. Without so much as a second glance at her, he left only a cold, retreating figure. When Qianqian's hand stung from the force, never having been treated with such cold indifference by Xu Lang before, her eyes instantly welled up with hurt tears. Seeing Gu Mingxing's utterly dejected and defeated appearance, Teacher Lin shook his head, sighed, and offered a gentle reminder. Mingxing, your score is still quite high. Not getting into Tsinghua isn't the end of the world. You still have your other two choices. For safety's sake, I advised you to list different universities for your second and third choices. Which ones did you put down? Capital Normal University, or perhaps Shanghai Jiaotong or Wuhan University? The few officials present couldn't bear to see such a promising student lose heart like this. They chimed in one after another. These are all top-tier universities, Comrade Gu. With your score, getting into any of them shouldn't be a problem at all. You're just too ambitious. Xiao Gu, Tsinghua University isn't the only path forward, you know. When Qianqian blinked hard, feeling a renewed sense of hope kindle within her, she quickly helped Gu Mingxing to his feet and spoke to him in a gentle, soothing tone. Mingxing, she's right. We don't necessarily have to aim for Tsinghua. With your excellent scores, even your second or third choice universities would offer you more than enough room to shine. As she spoke, she shot me a distant glance and raised her voice, as if trying to make amends. That way, I won't have to go to Tsinghua and be pestered by some shameless person. What a nuisance. Yet the man she was trying to comfort seemed to turn a deaf ear, keeping his head bowed low the whole time, his eyes hidden by the hair falling over his forehead. Suddenly, Mr. Lin seemed to realize something, his eyebrows lifting in astonishment. Mingxing, what on earth did you put for your other two choices? You, don't tell me you only applied to Tsinghua. A dull roar was all that remained in Gu Mingxing's ears. The voices surrounding him seemed to fade in and out, impossible to make out clearly. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he slowly raised his gaze and met a pair of dark, menacing eyes in the corner of the crowd. His lips parted, but no sound came out. He knew it was all over. In the blink of an eye, summer gave way to autumn. I've been in school for 3 months now and am gradually getting used to the vast, open skies of the capital. What a coincidence. In this life, I'm studying the very same physics major that Gu Mingxing pursued in my past life, but experiencing this top-tier academic world again, this time as a student rather than a caretaker. I've never felt so liberated and expansive. It's as if this is my true, complete rebirth. Devoting myself to study and research, making friends with like-minded classmates, all the baggage of my past life gradually faded into the distance. On this first day of winter, my brother came to Tsinghua University to see me, bringing some local specialties from our hometown. Seeing that I had finally regained some color in my face, he looked relieved and reminded me to share the local specialties with my roommates. After you left, those black market guys started cornering him every other day, demanding he pay up. That Gu Mingxing has some nerve. Word is he auctioned off the admission spot in advance, guaranteeing the buyer would get in, and sold it for a full 5,000 yuan. Xu Lang glanced at his sister's calm expression. She seemed genuinely indifferent about that person now, so he changed the subject and didn't say anything more. After failing the exam, Gu Mingxing was cornered by loan sharks from the black market that very night. They gave him a brutal beating and broke his arm. Later, he had to beg Wen Qianqian to sell off the clothes, shoes, watches, and other expensive gifts he had given her. Only then could he repay part of the debt and save his own skin. Even the money for that lavish, tented celebration banquet he threw was all bought on credit. Failing the exam turned him into a complete outcast overnight. A man drowning in debt and despised by everyone, yet even so, when Qianqian still did not leave him. After lying low for a while, the two of them slunk back to the educated youth compound and resumed their life together. Perhaps she still held out hope for Gu Mingxing's future. After all, he had firmly resolved to retake the college entrance exams for another year. When I saw my brother off at the train station, he told me with a smile, "Once the New Year's celebrations are over, I'll get the house and land back home sorted out. And then I'm coming out to make my way in the world too. I'm going to follow my little sister's lead." He had seen firsthand and truly admired the sheer determination I poured into my late-night studies back in the day. I smiled too. "That's wonderful. It'll be good to have each other to rely on out here. I believe in you, brother." Shulang suddenly reached out and gently, almost tenderly, patted my head. "I've always been your rock, and I always will be." His gaze swept over the faded marks on my arm. He seemed to have so much to say, but in the end, he just let out a low, remorseful sigh. "Xiaoqing, please don't do anything so foolish again." My own nose stung with emotion, knowing just how much this was hurting him. I kept it a secret from my brother, Gu Mingxing. He never knew I had been selling my blood for him for a whole year. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I forced a smile. "You too, brother. Let's promise each other. No more foolishness from either of us." That winter break, I took the train home for the new year. I spent the time tidying up the house for my brother, so everything would be ready for him when he came to the capital to seek his fortune in the spring. All along the way, any of the neighbors and fellow villagers who recognized me came over with great warmth and delight. "My goodness, Xiaoqing, you've really blossomed. In the blink of an eye, you've become so sophisticated. I almost didn't recognize you. Isn't that right?" She's a university student, you know, the only one from our village to get into Tsinghua. When I tell folks in the next village, they're absolutely green with envy. "Xiaoqing, when you find a proper, upstanding partner in the capital, don't forget to bring them back to the village for everyone to meet." Everyone was so enthusiastic. I smiled and acknowledged them one by one. I was finally heading back to my own home. As I passed the educated youth courtyard, a familiar figure unexpectedly caught the corner of my eye. When Qianqian didn't notice me, she was bent over with great difficulty, her belly swollen, picking winter vegetables from the field. Was she pregnant? Her belly was visibly rounded, looking about 4 or 5 months along. The beautiful, long hair she had cherished as my sister-in-law was now cut short. She wore a patched, gray padded jacket, and her hands, busy picking vegetables, were red, swollen, and chapped from the cold. I quickly averted my gaze and walked past in silence. In just the few days since I'd returned to the village, a steady stream of people had come to my home, offering greetings and trying to curry favor. They nearly wore out the doorstep. My brother had already prepared the pork for the New Year's feast, and it was simmering deliciously in the pot. He sighed with a mix of amusement and exasperation. "Xiaoqing, you have no idea how crazy the matchmakers got when they heard you were coming home for the holidays. They were all desperate to introduce you to eligible young men. Good thing your big brother here is reliable. I fended them all off for you." I asked him, "What about you, brother? Are you still looking for her?" Shulang was taken aback for a moment, then replied with a faint, wry smile. "You don't actually think I'm still hung up on her, do you?" He tapped my head lightly with the rice scoop as he hurried to lift the pot lid. "I don't have the mind for that anymore. Let's not talk about this now. Right now, your big brother's only focus is on making good money. Everything else can wait." After dinner, I went out for a walk. I hadn't gone far when someone, head down and walking briskly, nearly collided with me. He was holding a book. When he looked up, his gloomy, silent face froze for a moment. It didn't surprise me in the least to see how much older Gu Mingxing looked after just half a year. His hair and stubble unkempt, his clothes grubby, a far cry from his former spirited self. I knew all too well how difficult he could be during those days of preparing for the retake exams. However, nowadays, there's no one left to quietly handle all the trivial matters for him, allowing him the luxury of shutting out the world. Oh, he still has one Qianqian, but with her pregnant belly and no skill for cooking or chores, she'd likely struggle to take care of even herself. I calmly averted my gaze and prepared to leave. "Xiaoqing, I really have to hand it to you." Gu Mingxing spoke up abruptly, his eyes smoldering with dark fury. "You knew all along your estimated score was higher than mine, yet you just stood by and watched me blindly apply to Tsinghua without saying a word, deliberately setting me up, recalling the humiliating Painful memory of that day, his chest heaved as he ground out through clenched teeth, "What did I ever do to you? We could have parted ways amicably, but you just had to screw me over like this." The final scene from my past life flashed through my mind. I asked him the same question. "What, in all the world, did I, Shu Qing, ever do to wrong you?" But before I could hear his reply, my breath was gone. The ferocious face from the depths of my memory overlapped with the wretched, gloomy man before me. I parted my lips and shook my head. "It doesn't matter. What matters is, I didn't give up my bright future for you again." That night, Gu Mingxing might have chased after me for a few steps, shouting some desperate vow about how he'd definitely get into Tsinghua University this time if he repeated the year. I didn't quite catch that, and frankly, I didn't care. After the spring thaw, my brother finally arrived in the capital. But he soon joined the southward migration and headed for Shenzhen. A letter arrived not long after, saying he had teamed up with a buddy to start a small business. The year of study flew by. In the summer after my first year at Tsinghua University, I was invited back to my hometown by teacher Lin to give a talk, sharing my experience with the new cohort of exam candidates, MS. Lin was genuinely pleased to see how poised and well-adjusted I had become, yet when she looked at the bright red admission notices posted on the wall this year, she let out a sigh. Mingxing failed the exams again this year. His score, well, it's best not to mention it. Perhaps the blow was too great when Jiqing took the child and left, just 1 month before the college entrance exams. Before I left, Mr. Lin also told me that Gu Mingxing's score this year was actually good enough to get into a provincial teacher's college. Yet he insisted on putting Tsinghua University as his only choice on the application form. Seeing how determined he is, he'll probably try for a third year of retakes. Mr. Lin has given up trying to talk him out of it. 3 years later, after graduating, I chose to continue my studies at Tsinghua for a master's degree. My academic advisor is a preeminent authority in our field within the country and holds me in very high regard. On graduation day, I took off my cap and gown and was picked up by my brother and sister-in-law to attend their baby's 1-month celebration. My brother is incredibly hardworking. The very next year, he had built a thriving business in Shenzhen. This year, he even moved to the capital and, on my advice, bought several Sihiyuan courtyard houses. He met my new sister-in-law on a train 2 years ago. My sister-in-law was also a country girl. On the train to Shenzhen for work, she fell asleep and had her luggage stolen. Her face was streaked with tears, but she bit her lip, pretending she hadn't been crying. My brother, as calm as could be, lent her 50 yuan for living expenses. Quite coincidentally, he also helped her find a job that was in urgent need of hands. The following year, they got married in Shenzhen. My niece's 1-month celebration was a joyous and grand affair, and we even invited some familiar faces from our hometown. Mrs. Lin made the long trip to the capital for my graduation ceremony and also joined the celebration. She was happily keeping my sister-in-law company, cooing at my rosy-cheeked little niece. It wasn't until after the meal that she lowered her voice. "Do you still remember Gu Mingxing?" I was taken aback by her question. How could I possibly forget? A look of regret flickered in teacher Lin's eyes. He got into a junior college last year. He had finally accepted his fate and was ready to go study. I was quite happy for him. The night before he was set to leave, that educated youth, who had been gone for years, showed up with a child. She demanded a large sum of child support from him. She threatened that if he didn't pay, she'd go to the college and report how he once tried to secretly sell his admission spot on the black market, just to ruin his chance at an education. That's how they started arguing. No one really knows who threw the first punch. When they were found early the next morning, their bodies were riddled with stab wounds, completely drained of blood. Teacher Lin's eyes held a world of weariness. With a temper like his, it's a good thing you broke it off with him, Shu Qing. It's just a shame about the child. After hearing this, I fell silent for a long while. Without me in his life, I can foresee that Gu Mingxing's future and fate may not be so smooth. But for him to end up like this, I suppose it's just karma. Teacher Lin didn't catch it clearly. "Xiao Qing, what did you say?" I shook my head, smiled, and held my little niece. "It's nothing. Oh, by the way, Teacher Lin, I'll be donating another batch of textbooks, stationery, and reference books to our village this year. I'd appreciate it if you could distribute them to the students when you get back." Outside the window, the summer sun shone brightly. My life, from this point on, would no longer be a smooth road. Story 2. For 10 years, I supported Zhou Sinian all the way to his Ph.D. I watched him rise from a small-town academic striver to a tech industry success, only for him to ask for a divorce. Then, a car accident left me hovering between life and death for half a year. a ghostly observer of the ugliness below, my own grandmother, who once forced me to drop out of school, collected the 500,000 yuan insurance payout, and Zhou Sinian, with whom I'd long shared nothing in common, married his pregnant student mistress within a month. When I finally woke, I found myself back in my second year of high school, right on the brink of the decision that would alter my life forever, the day I was made to leave school. Hello everyone, and welcome to Glimmering Whispers of Love. Outside the office, Zhou Sinian was still waiting to comfort me. Wang Yanan, I'll help you get into Nanjing University, get lost. I'm getting into Tsinghua on my own. I shot him a glare, pushed the office door open, and announced, Teacher, I'm not dropping out. Grade Director Zhang adjusted his glasses. Wang Yanan, then have your guardian pay the outstanding tuition and fees of 8,904.9 yuan as soon as possible. I'm here. Grandma barged in, clutching a woven plastic sack. Teacher, don't listen to this child's nonsense. We're leaving right now. As she spoke, she started stuffing my books into the bag, muttering about how much scrap they'd fetch. Grandma, put my books down. I'm not dropping out. If you don't come home, I have no money to support you. Grandma glared at me. If they hadn't promised to cover your tuition, I wouldn't have even let you attend this proper high school. Director Zhang was displeased, guardian of Wang Yanan. When we recruited her after the high school entrance exam, waiving her fees came with a condition. We saw potential for a top-tier university. Now she's fallen from first place to 500th. The school cannot subsidize a useless student. Useless is useless. Let's go. Being home is what's useful. What Grandma meant by useful was me delivering milk in the morning, doing housework all day, and working at a convenience store at night, with all the money going to my fake brother Wang Lianjie for his video games. I'm not leaving. Director Zhang, I'll study hard. Please give me another chance. I shook off Grandma's hand. Given a second chance, I would never give up on learning again. Grandma grabbed my ear and started yelling, You wretched girl, what's there to study? Your father just died. We have no income at all. What will your brother use for school? Just like your good for nothing, early dead mother. You bring nothing but bad luck. Wang Lianjie isn't even my father's real son. You adopted him, I shouted back, unable to hold back. For the sake of some vague notion of carrying on the family line, you'd sacrifice your own granddaughter's education. Seeing my usually obedient self suddenly erupt, Grandma was stunned for a moment. Then, her lips trembling, she clutched her chest and theatrically collapsed to the floor. You wretched girl, you're trying to kill me. I don't want to live anymore. Teachers were drawn over by the commotion. Zhou Sinian, who had been at the door, was long gone. I met her move with one of my own. I knelt directly before Grandma, pushed up my uniform sleeve to reveal an arm covered in red welts, and cried out, Grandma, I'm your own flesh and blood. I'm not even an adult, and you're forcing me to drop out and marry for a bride price. That Zhou Daming is 40 years old and needs to be fed. I refused, and you beat me. How could you be so cruel? The watching teachers and students began murmuring in disbelief. Seizing the moment, I shuffled forward on my knees, my cries growing more desperate. Grandma, I'm begging you. I'll get into a good university. I'll earn money for the family. These were all tactics she had used in my past life to force me into marriage. Back then, I had injured Zhou Daming, stolen my ID, and fled overnight. I slept on streets, scavenged, and survived on stale buns in the big city. Only Zhou Xinyan's few words of comfort had been my sole solace. I used my hard-earned wages to send him snacks and pay for his expensive tutoring. Yet, in the end, he looked down on me for not finishing high school, saying I wasn't good enough for a professor. Even after I'd taught myself his university's graduate curriculum, he still said we had nothing in common. Was a piece of paper really that important? This time, I would prove it to everyone myself. Worried about the scene, Director Zhang quickly helped us both up. Grandmother of Wang Yanan, the child is only 16. You cannot force her to marry. It's against the law. Grandma stubbornly refused to get up properly. Not marry. Is the school going to pay her fees then? I won't handle it. I will. The voice came from the doorway. It was Mr. Hu, the Chinese literature teacher. He walked in. Director Zhang, Wang Yanan has excellent aptitude. Her junior high grades were top-notch. She's just been stretched too thin, with no time to study. I wasn't aware of her family situation before. I hope the school can apply to waive part of her fees. I'll cover the rest. There's no precedent for this. Director Zhang frowned. Teacher who glanced at my grandmother. I plan to apply for her to board at school. If she doesn't have to go home, she'll definitely get into a top-tier university. In my past life, teacher who had tried repeatedly to persuade me to stay, saying my junior high teachers had mentioned I was a rare, highly intelligent child and it would be a real shame to quit school. But I was so foolish back then. I believed Zhou Sinian when he said girls could only stay at the top of the class before junior high, and that no matter how hard they tried in high school, they could never catch up to the boys. Add to that the distraction of a puppy love romance, and my grades plummeted, trapping me in a vicious cycle. Teacher who? I can't let you shoulder this burden for me, I said earnestly. This is my own life, and I need to take responsibility for it. Director Zhang, I'm begging the school to continue supporting me. If I get into Tsinghua University, all the fees can be written off, and I'll even help with the school's recruitment publicity. Is that acceptable? Director Zhang spat out the water he just sipped. Tsinghua, you've got some nerve. No. High school has to pray to the gods every year just to get a student into a 211 university, and you're talking about Tsinghua. I just haven't had the time to study before, I explained, my voice lacking conviction. Honestly, I'd barely studied the entire first year of high school and was hopelessly behind. Even I thought it sounded like a pipe dream. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The final exams are next week. Let's see your scores before you start making grand claims. Director Zhang said, clearly unconvinced. Teacher who also thought I was overreaching. Wang Yanan, don't worry about the tuition and fees. If it bothers you, you can pay me back after you start working. I fell silent for a long moment, knowing only facts could prove anything. In my past life, to keep up with Zhou Sinian, I'd audited his advanced math classes with him. My foundation was solid. I'd even solved a challenging problem a university professor posed, and quickly at that. My intelligence wasn't the issue. The English proficiency, especially spoken English, I'd honed over years of work, was actually an advantage. The biggest problem now was the severe time crunch, but I had no way back. Director Zhang, if I can rank in the top 10 of my grade in next week's finals, will the school be willing to believe in me then? Teacher who patted my shoulder and turned to plead my case. Director Zhang, I'll tutor her myself. Let's just give her this one chance. Well, if teacher who vouches for you, then alright. Director Zhang relented, but if you don't make the top 10, you really can't stick around anymore. Deal. Without a glance at my grandmother, who was still throwing a tantrum on the floor, I snatched the woven plastic bag from her hands and dragged it back to the classroom. Class had just ended, and the classroom was buzzing with students chatting and roughhousing. When I walked in, every head turned in unison. I made my way to my seat from memory, where a tall, dark-skinned boy was perched on my desk. My deskmate, Gung Shuang, the school bully who loved picking on me. My desk drawer was crammed with his game console, snacks, trading cards, and random books. Get your stuff out of here, I said, not in the mood to deal with this brat. What's the point of you even studying with grades like that? You won't even make it into a vocational college. Save yourself the trouble, Gung Shuang sneered. Look at you dragging that woven plastic bag around. You might as well be trash yourself. Go home and scavenge garbage where you belong. The class erupted in laughter, joining in. Yeah, I always said she cheated on the high school entrance exam, acting all high and mighty for ranking 10th in the county. What a joke. And now she's bottom 10. Asterisk thwack. Asterisk. I slammed the plastic bag down on the desk and shot a fierce glare around the room. The laughter died instantly as everyone stared. Stunned by the sudden outburst from the usually meek and timid me, I yanked open the drawer, dumped all his belongings onto the floor, pulled out my chair, and sat down. As I took out my books, I said coolly, Gung Shuang, you can buy your way into university. I can't, so do us both a favor and don't interrupt my studying. I don't have time for your childish bullying games. Gung Shuang gaped, his face flushing bright red. His bought admission into high school was a secret none of our classmates knew. In my past life, I'd only learned it later from Zhou Sinian, his good buddy. What are you talking about? He stammered, his bravado crumbling. Just then, our English teacher, Ms. Shen, strode into the room, and the chatter ceased immediately. Notorious for her temper, nicknamed the Nun of No Mercy, she was clearly in a foul mood today. Our class had scored worse than the neighboring class on the recent practice exam. Again, you could score 80 on this test with your eyes closed, yet some of you managed a whopping 40. She slammed the stack of papers onto her desk. I could scatter rice on the answer sheet and let a chicken peck at it. It would still outscore some of you. Now, we're having a quiz on last night's vocabulary. One mistake, and you copy each word 100 times, spotting the glaring red 40 on my paper. Gung Shuang's hand shot up. Teacher, Wang Yanan says she can do the quiz. He flashed me a grin. Asterisk. Cold laughter echoed in my mind. Seems I went too easy on him earlier. Asterisk. Ms. Shen, already displeased with my performance, snapped. Fine, Wang Yanan, you're up. as our class's resident last-place student, you'll copy any mistakes 200 times. Teacher, Gung Shuang would like to quiz as well, I said, offering him a sweet smile. Gung Shuang blinked, clearly caught off guard by the counterattack. We both walked to the front. At first, I deliberately hesitated, not writing anything. Gung Shuang's smirk grew wider. Can't do it, huh? Might as well start on those 200 copies now. Truth be told, high school sophomore vocabulary was child's play for someone who'd memorized GRE word lists. Plus, I'd already recognized she was calling out the words from Unit 4, in order, and wouldn't you know it, I'd just tutored a kid on these very words before the accident. Gung Shuang, I said, raising my voice, want to bet I can wait until she finishes the whole unit before I start writing. What nonsense are you spouting? If you can do that, I'll copy the words standing on my head, he retorted defiantly. Quiet, Ms. Shen barked at us and continued reciting. Flustered by my interruption, Gung Shuang missed several words, leaving blanks on the board. So, this headstand copying punishment, is that for real? I pressed. A real man stands by his word. The whole class heard me. Gung Shuang, are you going to write or what? Get on with it, I needled him. I'm waiting for the teacher to finish. Wang Yanan, Ms. Shen began to scold me, but her words trailed off as she watched my hand fly across the blackboard. I wrote with such speed that I soon outpaced her recitation altogether. A chorus of gasps erupted from the class. Gung Shuang, flustered, grabbed my wrist and started patting down my pockets. What are you hiding? Gung Shuang, stop that, mister. Shen's voice cut through. I was watching the whole time. She wrote it from memory. Wang Yanan, I didn't expect you to have memorized the entire unit's vocabulary in order. Well done, just don't score 40 on the next test, mister, Shen said before turning his attention. Gung Shuang, you got 5 wrong. Copy them 100 times in my office after class. I listened with unusual focus for the rest of the lesson. Nearing the end, mister. Shen launched a piece of chalk toward the window. Sitting there was Bai Rang, revered by his classmates as the sleeping sage. Rumor had it that since he started at this school, people had only ever seen the back of his head, and the administration didn't dare say a word. They were terrified of upsetting the Bai family, whose donation had built this very classroom building. In my past life, Bai Rang and I had barely crossed paths. The only time was after I dropped out and was working at a restaurant. A customer was giving me a hard time, and he stepped in to help. Worried that Zhou Sinian would get jealous, I just slipped away. After class, I dragged my woven plastic bag over to Bai Rang's desk. I don't want to sit with Gung Shuang anymore. You don't mind if I sit here, do you? I asked, already swiftly unpacking my books and arranging them. You ask after you've already moved in. Bai Rang's voice was like water gurgling over stones, low and muffled. Because I knew you wouldn't mind, I said, laying on a bit of a sweet tone and giving his arm a light nudge. The pale shell of his ear instantly flushed red. He pulled his arm away and turned his face to the side, his tone still cool. Just don't disturb my sleep. The 2 girls in front of us turned and shot me a glare, whispering to each other, oh my god. Bai Rang actually agreed. What gives her the right to just plop down there? If I'd known it was that easy, I would have done it. Yeah, you should tell the teacher she's changing seats without permission. I cleared my throat. By the way, have you guys heard that Ms. who is going to pay my tuition? Teenage girls are so easy to fool. That one sentence made them think Ms. who favored me, and they didn't dare say another word. Meanwhile, Bai Rang, his face buried in the crook of his arm, let out a low, muffled chuckle. His hair trembling slightly. You'd miss it if you weren't paying close attention. During the noisy lunch break, I kept my head down, buried in my studies. That is, until Zhou Sinian walked into the classroom. He'd been absent all morning, supposedly preparing for the English competition. The school only had one spot. In my past life, he took it. This time, I won't let him have it. He walked straight towards me, his face wearing its usual gentle expression. Are you okay? I'll go get you some food from the cafeteria. So that's why you slipped away from the office door this morning. I stared fixedly at him, my eyes full of mockery. This was exactly the time in my past life when feelings had begun to simmer between us. He was an orphan, and I was practically one myself, 2 lonely souls finding warmth in each other during our youth. I remembered him vowing to get into a good university, to make those who looked down on him eat their words. I remembered him crying, saying he had no money to repeat the school year and begging for my help, and I remembered even more clearly the coldness with which he used emotional neglect to force me into divorce. Well, who's getting lunch delivered? With the 2 of you looking so shabby, you're trying to copy others and date. Chen Lingling walked into the classroom with her school bag slung over her shoulder, deliberately drawing out her words. The little clique behind her burst into mocking laughter. She was the class beauty, and relying on her pretty looks, she had formed a small group that loved to pick on others. Carrying a lunchbox means we're dating, I retorted casually while tidying the books in my woven plastic bag. How would you know so much about it? Are you the one dating in high school? My words hit a nerve. No one knew it now, but after graduation, it was all over the class chat. She had an online relationship in high school, sneaked out in the middle of the night to go online, met the guy after the college entrance exams, got pregnant, and became a mother before even finishing university. You're full of shit. Chen Lingling, feeling exposed, flew into a rage and rushed forward to throw my books. I shoved her away and cast a cold glance at Zhou Sinian standing nearby. He had strong pride, in my past life. No matter the conflict, I was always the one who made a scene and stood up. The look in his eyes now was exactly the same as back then, cowardly and hesitant. I couldn't be bothered with him, focusing only on protecting my books, but Chen Lingling's friends charged forward too. The woven bag was torn open, books scattering across the floor, and they stomped on them hard with their feet. Mess with me if you want, but don't you dare touch my books. I couldn't hold back. I kicked the desk and charged straight at them. After the scuffle, the 5 of us were hauled into the office by our homeroom and math teacher, Mr. Gao. He slammed his hand on the desk, furious. What is wrong with you? Girls fighting, is that proper behavior? And in an honors class, no less. Have you no shame? If you don't want to study, go home, especially you, Wang Yanan. He pointed at me. You're the most shameless of all. Your grades are terrible. Your character is worse. Fighting, tardiness, skipping class. You've drained your conduct points completely. It was them. They stepped on my books first, I argued, but Mr. Gao didn't believe a word of it. Chen Lingling had always been the picture of obedience and diligence in front of the teachers. Chen Lingling, after gathering her courage for what felt like an eternity, timidly raised her hand. Mr. Gao, I want to report something. Wang Yanan is a bad influence. She's been seducing Zhou Sinian. When I found out and said I'd tell a teacher, they attacked me. Zhou Sinian was the school's prized candidate for a top-tier university. At this, Mr. Gao's temper flared even hotter. He snatched a book from his desk and hurled it at me. Thankfully, Mr. Who from the desk in front quickly intervened. Lao Gao, seducing is a serious accusation. Shouldn't you hear from the boy himself? Zhou Sinian was summoned quickly. Mr. Gao confronted him, his anger palpable. This incident hadn't happened in my past life, but I already knew exactly how he'd respond. A consummate opportunist, always looking out for number one. It was Wang who asked me to get her a meal from the cafeteria, Zhou Sinian said, his face flushed with embarrassment, pale as his uniform. Teacher, I really didn't mean anything by it. Gaining confidence, he continued, and before that, she was the one who asked me for help with homework. That's how we, hold on. I cut in abruptly. What subject did I ask you about? Zhou Sinian stammered. English, a joke. I scoffed. Me, someone who can hold a conversation with a foreigner just fine, needing to ask you about English. I turned back to Mr. Gao. He's lying. First, he offered to bring the food himself. Second, I have never asked him for help with English. My English might not be the absolute best, but I certainly don't need his help. You, with a score of 40, claim your English is better than Zhou Sinian's. Mr. Gao shook the grade sheet in his hand and flung it in my face, staring at that stark, inky 40. I fell silent. Fine, Mr. Gao delivered his ultimatum. If your English isn't up to standard by the final exam, you're out of class 1, you can go to a regular class. Okay, I replied flatly, then turned and walked back to the classroom. Back at my seat, I started planning my study schedule. Even though I'd taken advanced math and my English was decent, I'd never actually practiced any college entrance exam questions, so I felt unsure. On top of that, I'd barely studied at all during my entire freshman year of high school. The sheer amount of catching up I had to do made me anxious, and I unconsciously started tapping my foot. Bai Rang next to me frowned slightly. Could you stop moving? Sorry, I said, shamelessly seizing the opportunity. Mind if I take a look at your review materials? On his desk sat a copy of 5 years of college entrance exams, 3 years of mock tests, looking as pristine as if he planned to sell it to the next year's students. Without a word, Bai Rang pushed the book over. I flipped to the table of contents. The English test papers were divided into A and B versions. The purple ones were for the second round of senior year review. The red ones for the first round. Both were modular reviews, covering multiple choice, reading comprehension, and task-based reading. Is that how you review, flipping pages or actually reading? Chen Lingling sneered from not far away. Others noticed the speed at which I was turning pages and joined in with mocking laughs. Is this the legendary quantum speed reading method? Finishing a book in 25 seconds. More like you're the idiot, scoring a perfect 250. I ignored them and kept flipping. English ultimately comes down to vocabulary. The vocabulary I'd memorized for the postgraduate entrance exam already covered everything needed for the college entrance exam. Even if I hadn't done many practice questions, a bit more practice would be enough. If Zhou Sinian had said I needed help with math, I might have backed off. College entrance exam math isn't something you can handle just because you know advanced calculus, but for English, I was completely confident. As I was lost in these thoughts, Bai Rang suddenly kicked his desk. With a loud thud, the classroom fell silent. What's all the noise? His cold gaze swept over Chen Lingling and her group of friends, had enough to say. They looked like ducks with their necks wrung, faces flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. Being mocked by the handsome guy you have a crush on is always humiliating. Chen Lingling ran out crying, apparently going to complain to her uncle. Teacher Gao. Heh, I chuckled under my breath. Think you can afford to mess with him? You really think Teacher Gao would give you a hard time over her? What are you laughing at? Bai Rang had heard me. You think I'm throwing my weight around? His perceptiveness surprised me. No, my tooth hurts, I said with a dismissive wave, then busied myself with tidying his desk, eager to please. Go ahead and sleep, I definitely won't talk anymore. My brief interaction with Bai Rang in my past life had taught me he wasn't as aloof and unapproachable as he seemed on the surface. As I organized his books, arranging his pens and stacking his texts, I did it all according to my own habits. Bai Rang initially looked like he wanted to stop me, but after a glance, he stayed silent. We have similar organizing habits, he said suddenly, his tone carrying a hint of barely detectable probing. It sounded like a pickup line. My movements paused, and I looked up to see his cheeks flushed. I didn't mean it like that, he hurriedly explained. I know, I believe you, I said with a smile. Bai Rang didn't say anything more, but the red at the tips of his ears deepened. At the time, I had no idea just how important those 3 words, I believe you, were to him. As expected, Teacher Gao didn't get involved in the matter with Bai Rang. Chen Lingling came running back in tears, to the soundtrack of her sobs. I happily spent my first evening self-study session after being reborn. It was truly like hearing celestial music that clears the ears for a while, making even reciting the song of the pipa player flow smoothly. But when school let out, my life became as tragic as the pipa players. My school dormitory application hadn't been approved yet, so I had no choice but to go home first. The 60-square-meter apartment in the old city was the only asset my father left behind. Wang Lianjia occupied the master bedroom, Grandma had the smaller one, and I slept in a makeshift partition carved out of the living room. At 10 o'clock at night, the only sounds in the house were Wang Lianjia gaming, punctuated by the occasional shout of double kill. I finished a quick shower and was just about to slip into my tiny space when he emerged. His hair was a dry, straw-like yellow. He was out of breath after just a few steps, his face perpetually greasy, nothing like anyone in our family. His shifty eyes lingered where they shouldn't on me, and he thrust out a pudgy hand. Transfer me 500 kwai, I need to buy a skin. He even swallowed when he said the word skin, adding, your skin's not bad either, sis. I slapped his hand away, my voice sharp. Are you insane? I'm warning you. Touch me again and I'll break your hand, getting a bit above yourself just because you decided not to drop out. Huh, Wang Lianjia sneered. What are you hiding for? We're not even related by blood. He forced his way into the partition space, trying to clamp a hand over my mouth. You bastard. I raised my hand to strike him, but he was all bluster and no strength. I grabbed the nearest lamp and smashed it against the back of his head. With a heavy thud, he crumpled to the floor, his struggles to get up hampered by his own bulk. His wails finally brought Grandma running. Why are you hitting your brother? She demanded, launching herself at me to pinch and claw without asking a single question. Dodging her, I fumbled for my phone and dialed the police. Hello? 110, someone is assaulting me. I don't know him. The word police sent Grandma into a panic. She lunged for the phone but couldn't reach it, so she threw herself to the floor instead. What sin have I committed? If you have your brother arrested, how am I supposed to go on? I won't even be able to face your father when I die. Wang Lianjia, trembling, started crawling toward me to grab the phone. I sidestepped him and bolted out the door, not stopping until I reached the ground floor. I waited there until the police car arrived, then followed the officers back upstairs. We walked in to find Wang Lianjia groaning dramatically on the floor. playing the part of the gravely injured. Is this the person? The officer asked me. Yes, I'm terrified of him. I really don't know him, I said, my voice trembling as I played my part to perfection. Don't know him, he's your brother. Grandma scurried over, her tiny steps rapid, and pleaded with the officers through tears. Officers, they're siblings, it's all a misunderstanding. I'm an only child, I said, tears streaming as I hid behind the policeman. I'm always at school, leaving early and coming back late. I've never seen this man before in my life, never seen him. Your brother's been here for 6 months. Grandma was practically hopping with frustration. Wang Lianjie had been dumped on us by his parents right after Dad died. Is there any legal adoption paperwork? The officer asked. Grandma hemmed and hawed, unable to produce an answer. Without notarization, that kind of informal arrangement held no legal weight, but he's still family, and he's just a child. What does he know? Grandma kept arguing, though Wang Lianjie's pudgy, grown man face seriously challenged the definition of child. I took out my phone and played the recording I'd made earlier. Wang Lianjie's harassing words came through loud and clear. He instantly fell silent. Finally, Grandma's defiance crumbled. But he's your brother, she whined, her voice thick with despair. You can't let them take him. He's going to be a civil servant one day. Civil servants require a bachelor's degree, I thought to myself, asterisk with his record. Dropping out of vocational school, he's dreaming, asterisk, despite Grandma's theatrics. Rolling on the floor and wailing, the police took Wang Lianjie away. Watching his retreating back, Grandma finally understood I was immovable. She snatched up my clothes, twisting them into a ball. You heartless girl, then get out. This is your brother's house now. Get as far away from here as you can and drop dead. Don't you dare think you'll get a single cent of the Wang family's property. With a final, resounding slam of the door, I was locked out. Hoisting my meager bundle of belongings, I walked away from the place I had called home for 16 years, with nowhere else to go. I had to make do for the night at a 24-hour KFC. In my past life, after I ran away, I never went back. Wang Lianjie smoothly got his hands on Grandma's inheritance, but this time around, I'm not letting that bastard have it easy. The house is in Dad's name, and by law, I'm entitled to at least half. It's just that final exams are breathing down my neck. So I'll have to deal with the property after I'm done. Sighing, I pulled out the study materials I'd borrowed from Bairang and, in the dawn light at 5 in the morning, started grinding through practice problems. At 6:30, for the first time without needing to go to a part-time job, I went straight to school for morning study. Not many people had arrived yet, but Zhou Xinian was conspicuously among them. Unlike Bairang, Zhou Xinian was studying on a school stipend. With no background or resources, he had to study like his life depended on it just to keep this chance at an education, up until he got his PhD and refused to marry me. I had always admired that ruthless drive of his. In my past life, I waited for him for 9 years. It's been 4 years, 9 years. You've got your doctorate now, we're stable, let's get married, I proposed, my eyes full of hope. Nan. I need to think about this, he hedged, and that thinking lasted 3 years. It wasn't until I got pregnant and forced the issue that we finally registered our marriage, but right after the wedding, I miscarried from overwork, and then he asked for a divorce. You were the one who said you wanted to be with me forever. Why did you change? I demanded, hysterical. That Professor Zhou, who could chat and laugh with the cafeteria ladies, subjected me to nothing but the silent treatment. Everyone knew Professor Zhou had married a country bumpkin. A woman who smashed dishes, threw tantrums, and forced the professor into a divorce. I can pay back all the money you spent over the years, as long as you agree to the divorce. Zhou Xinian's tone was ice cold. Why didn't you say that when you were repeating your senior year? Why not when you needed tuition for university, or when you signed up for that grad school prep course? My questions were laced with despair. Now that you're successful, you just want to walk away scot-free. Am I supposed to end up with nothing, no person and no money? At 30, filled with resentment, I went out and was hit by a car. The past is too painful to look back on. Now, seeing Zhou Xinian again just makes me sick. I'm full without even having breakfast. Yet, Zhou Xinian slowly walked over to me. About yesterday, I'll explain things to Teacher Gao for you. He glanced at the book in my hand. That's Bairang's book, isn't it? Don't get too close to him. We're not the same kind of people as him. What do you mean, not the same kind of people? Are poor people automatically more virtuous? I hit his sore spot with precision. You were spouting nonsense in the office yesterday. I haven't even settled that score with you yet. I had no choice. Zhou Xinian's face went pale, his defense utterly weak. Harming others to benefit yourself is your motto. You and I are the ones who walk different paths, I said coldly. Zhou Xinian opened his mouth to speak again, but people started trickling into the classroom. This is my seat. Bai Rang arrived quite early, his tone was flat, but it made Zhou Xinian instantly turn tail and flee. That retreating back looked as if it had suffered a great humiliation. After Bai Rang sat down, I pushed the exercises I'd finished last night over to him. Thanks, he just laid his head on the desk, ready to sleep, and asked out of the blue, thanking him. I knew he meant Zhou Xinian, but I didn't say a word. The final review week flew by in a blur of self-study and frantic cramming, draining every ounce of mental energy I had. Most of my classmates' desks were stuffed with snacks, rivaling a small convenience store, but mine was empty. I only had 200 yuan to my name, and I was saving that to consult a lawyer about inheritance law. That whole week, I survived on one meal a day, powered by sheer willpower alone. Gurgle. My stomach betrayed me with an embarrassing rumble. Bai Rang, sporting a serious case of bedhead with one particularly stubborn cowlick, looked thoroughly annoyed. He rummaged in his backpack, pulled out a bread roll, and thrust it at me impatiently. Here, eat it, I bought this one myself. The stuff in my desk is all from other people. Giving you this isn't disrespectful to them. He seemed chattier than usual today. No wonder so many people have a crush on you, I said sincerely, taking a bite. If you don't know how to talk, then don't talk, he muttered, already burying his head in his arms, but the tips of his ears turned bright red. This kid is just too adorable. A thought struck me. Hey, want me to tutor you in math? I was actually pretty good at it in middle school, believe it or not. In response, Bai Rang silently flipped open our math test papers side by side. His was marked with a glaring red 25. Mine had a glaring red 66. You're sure you want to tutor me in math? He shot me a withering look and went back to sleep. By mooching a bread roll from Bai Rang every day, I somehow managed to survive until the final exams. The moment I stepped into the exam hall, I was met with Teacher Gao's death glare. Seating was arranged by rank, and as the class's resident bottom dweller, I was assigned to the general stream exam room. A girl with a cute bob haircut poked me and whispered, "Want to help each other out later? Certain individuals should not even think about cheating brazenly. I will be watching you very closely," Teacher Gao declared sternly. His gaze locked on me. I quietly raised my hand. "Teacher, I'd like to take the exam next to you. The lighting here is terrible. One good trick works everywhere." I refused to believe anyone could frame me if I was sitting right next to the teacher's desk. After successfully relocating to the front, I got my Chinese exam paper. Chinese relies heavily on foundational knowledge, so even with minimal review that week, I could still manage a decent baseline score. I finished all the questions diligently, only to look up and find Teacher Gao ignoring every other student, his eyes fixed solely on me. I'd seen that kind of contemptuous look plenty of times from Zhou Xinian's colleagues and classmates. I was immune to it by now. I assumed the proctors would rotate, but for the math exam, it was still Teacher Gao. Was he picking a fight with me? He went so far as to pull up a chair and sit right in front of me, staring as I worked. "Teacher, you're blocking my light," I said innocently, catching a glimpse of Headmaster Zhang patrolling outside the window. "Lao Gao, it's the mock exams. Don't disturb the students," Headmaster Zhang chided quietly. This makes solving problems even easier. Teacher Gao shot me a dirty look and stalked off to another part of the room. Plop. A paper ball landed on my desk. I looked up, meeting Teacher Gao's furious glare head-on. "Aha, I knew you were going to cheat." "I didn't," I stated calmly. "You think the surveillance cameras aren't on? I'll deal with you after the exam." He snatched my test paper away. "Who threw the answers? Step forward now." The room fell dead silent. His anger visibly swelled. Soon, all 3 grade-level heads arrived. After collecting the papers, they made us stay while they pulled up the surveillance footage. They quickly identified the culprit, the girl with the bob haircut. Her round face was etched with terror, and she kept glancing at me, her expression practically screaming accomplice. I sighed and raised my hand. "Teacher, she asked me to pass her the answers." "That's a lie," the bob-haired girl shrieked, her voice suddenly loud. "You asked me for the answers first. We planned it before the exam." Teacher Gao immediately jumped in. "Wang Yanan, I never expected you to cheat. A student from the arts stream cheating. You're the first." The girl burst into tears. "Teacher, I admit it. It was a moment of weakness. Please don't blame me. Who told you to frame me?" I stared at her coldly. "I don't even know who you are." "The surveillance footage and the paper ball are both evidence. Are you still trying to deny it? Not only are your grades poor, but your character is worse, Mr." Gao's face flushed with a self-assured redness, as if his judgment had just been validated. "I have evidence too. I said, flipping open the confiscated test paper and pointing to the final problem about the moving point P. I don't believe she could have solved this one either. Director Zhang leaned in to look. My test paper was filled with a detailed answer for the final, difficult problem, while many of the earlier, basic questions were left blank. He then looked at the paper ball, which contained only answers to simple fill-in-the-blanks and multiple-choice questions. If you could solve the last problem, why would you need her answers? Director Zhang had found the flaw. Mr. Gao accused me of cheating and took my paper away before I could finish the front section, I stated confidently. The truth was, I had only reviewed the moving point problems and hadn't looked at the other question types at all. I'd only figured out this particular problem because Bai Rang had casually dropped a hint. I can write it out for you right now, I said, picking up a marker, walking to the blackboard, and writing furiously while explaining each step. The girl with the bob haircut was completely dumbfounded. Now, care to explain why you framed me? I put down the marker and looked at her. Not long after the girl was taken away, Chen Lingling and Bai Rang were also called out. Thankfully, Bai Rang returned quickly. Sorry for dragging you into this, I said, feeling embarrassed. Bai Rang shook his head, and that's when I learned the truth. The girl with the bob had a crush on Bai Rang. Chen Lingling had stirred up trouble, making her believe I was shamelessly pursuing Bai Rang, which led to the plan to frame me for cheating. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have failed math. Bai Rang said, looking at me, the corners of his eyes slightly red. A handsome guy crying is a sight, but his logic was all wrong. That's victim blaming. If a tree gets knocked over by the wind, do you blame the tree? I whispered, trying to comfort him. Do you believe this had nothing to do with me? Even if you ask 100 more times, the answer is the same. I believe you. Bai Rang's voice was low and firm. That sentence instantly triggered a memory from my past life. When I was being harassed by a customer at the restaurant, Bai Rang had stepped in to defend me, saying those exact words. I believe this server. She didn't mean it. His low, magnetic voice seemed to echo in my ears, and I couldn't help but blush. Asterisk, he's still just a kid now. What am I thinking? It must be because he's too handsome. Asterisk. Luckily, no one noticed our flushed faces. Everyone was gathered around Gung Shuang, listening to his vivid retelling of how Mr. Gao got chewed out by the principal. The principal had reviewed the surveillance footage, concluded that Mr. Gao had been fixated on me for too long, was lax in his proctoring, and had limited competence, and had given him a severe dressing down. With that good news, the English exam arrived as scheduled. I casually reported Gung Shuang for trying to sneak his phone into the exam hall. A little return gift of sorts. Just as I was about to enter the exam room, Zhou Xinian suddenly stopped me. I'll put in a good word for you, he said, then walked off before I could even think of a retort. Asterisk, put in a good word. He's already decided I'm hopeless that quickly. Asterisk, fueled by that irritation, I wrote furiously during the English exam, this time, without Mr. Gao's interference. The test went smoothly. Physics, chemistry, and biology also passed without a hitch. Now, all that was left was to wait for the results. I packed up my desk, planning to use the summer break to catch up on 6 foundational subjects. Are you still sleeping at KFC this summer? Bai Rang asked unexpectedly, a note of concern in his voice. It's warm out. It's fine, I evaded, though I was actually planning to get a lawyer involved to sort out the property issue. How about, I hire you as a tutor? 200 per session. Bai Rang hesitated for a long time before saying it. What happened with the cheating? It really had nothing to do with you. Don't take it to heart. Really, I exclaimed, grabbing his hand in excitement. But I really am a good tutor. Bai Rang's gaze fell on my previous math test paper. I slapped my hand over it. The 25 was just a fluke. All right. Bai Rang nodded and gave me his phone number. Awkward. I didn't have a cell phone. I had to go empty-handed and ask teacher Hu for help. To see if there was any legal aid available. Attorney Sue. This student of mine is a minor. I'd really appreciate your assistance. Teacher Hu said, treating my problem as his own and bustling about. Teacher, when I get into Tsinghua, I'll make sure you get interviewed, I said gratefully. Teacher Hu chuckled. I watched you get admitted through special recruitment after the high school entrance exam. High school courses are different from middle school. I don't care which university you get into, as long as you try your best. He thought I was just joking, until the next day, when the final exam results were posted. English, 142 points, top 10 in the grade. Early in the morning, Director Zhang rushed to the second-year teacher's office, excitedly announcing the news. Our class has a top English score, 142 points. Everyone gathered around. Teacher Shen feigned modesty. Oh, that Zhou Xinian. He's just uneven in his subjects. but his English has always been good, seeing Zhou Xinian walk in. She gave him a hearty pat on the shoulder. Well done, 142 points, even first high school rarely sees scores like that. Zhou Xinian himself seemed a bit incredulous, given the exam's high difficulty. Maybe the grading was lenient. I didn't do that well. If it wasn't you, then who? Who else in our class has English that good? Teacher Shin declared, without even checking the rankings. Teacher Who, and I happened to arrive at the office door just then, hearing this. Teacher Who spoke up with a smile. Teacher Shin, the one with 142 points is Wang Yanan. What? Teacher Shin was stunned, quickly snatching up the results sheet to look. Chinese 99, Math 40, English 142, Physics 40, Chemistry 29, Biology 30. Congratulations, Wang Yanan, you did very well in English, Teacher Who said, breaking the awkward silence and announcing my score himself. As for math, everyone knows Teacher Gao held you back, he added, given enough time. Passing the second-tier university entrance threshold in math would have been a sure thing. Teacher Gao's face flushed, then paled. Impossible, she must have cheated. Lao Gao. This was an original exam set by the Teaching Research Office. There are no answers online, another teacher whispered, unable to stand by. The office erupted into chatter. Zhou Xinian stood there, looking as if he'd suffered a tremendous blow. The English top spot he'd always monopolized was now only second place. Teacher Gao, do you understand now? I looked at him, my voice trembling with years of suppressed anger. I never asked Zhou Xinian for help with English, and I certainly never tried to seduce him. I despise him. Every second I see him makes me sick, thinking of the emotional neglect from my past life, a decade of devotion, the pain of a miscarriage. My voice shook uncontrollably. You never investigated this properly. Wang Yanan, don't be upset. I'll have Teacher Gao apologize to you. Director Zhang said, as if suddenly remembering my outstanding entrance exam results. I don't need anyone's apology. I just want to transfer classes, I stated firmly. Zhou Xinian walked out of the office, utterly dejected. In this life, I would dismantle his pride step by step, turning him from the small-town exam ace into the small-town mistake collection. I sought out Teacher Shin on my own. Teacher, thank you for your guidance. I'd like to participate in the English competition. May I? Having a student with the top single subject score was good for her, but she seemed conflicted. Of course, I recognized your ability long ago. It's just, there's only one spot, and you and Zhou Xinian are classmates. One exam proves nothing. Zhou Xinian has been first every year, consistently. Teacher Gao appeared out of nowhere, bringing Zhou Xinian with him to object. The competition spot must go to Zhou Xinian. How about this? Someone suggested. We gather the other English teachers for a live test. Winner takes the spot. Director Zhang stepped in with the proposal. Well aware of how much the English competition bonus points meant for the school, feeling his own interests threatened, Zhou Xinian's face twisted with pain and regret. Other than that one time, when have I ever wronged you? Why are you doing this to me? The English competition offers extra credit. It's all for the school's benefit. I replied with practiced righteousness. If you're afraid of losing, you can still back out now. You're going down in flames. Zhou Xinian shot back. A crowd from Class 1 had gathered, tossing out snide remarks left and right, scoring first once and suddenly thinking you're hot stuff. What a joke. With grades as poor as yours, how dare you challenge the top student in the grade? You probably cheated. These are TOEFL speaking prompts, Teacher Shin announced. Holding up the test papers, take a look, and you'll answer orally in a moment. The TOEFL's vocabulary went far beyond high school level, but it didn't emphasize grammar. It was practically tailor-made for me. In my past life, I'd memorized plenty of TOEFL words while working at upscale restaurants to earn extra cash, though I never finished the whole list. Zhou Xinian went up first. The TOEFL is notoriously tough for high schoolers, but he handled the listening, speaking, reading, and writing tasks decently enough. The English teachers nodded in approval. Get off the stage already. Stop embarrassing yourself. Chen Lingling led the jeering, her clique quickly joining in. Dressed in rags and still entering a competition, you'd be better off in a begging contest. I ignored their taunts and raised my hand to take the stage. Fluent English, advanced vocabulary, authentic slang. I wielded them all effortlessly. These were real skills honed through hard work. Seeing the approving smiles on the English teachers' faces, I knew I had this in the bag. Zhou Xinian, in this life, I'm going to clip your wings. You want to go to college? Not a chance. In the end, I secured the competition spot and smoothly transferred into Teacher Who's class. The only downside was no longer sharing a desk with Bai Rang. Over summer break, I'd do everything I could to help him improve in math. Ms. Wang, The court has accepted your case, Attorney Sue delivered the good news. The property rights are clear, your identity is established, and a verdict should come soon. Please help me sell that house, I said. I have no desire to ever go back. Right after hanging up, I saw my grandmother, Wang Lianjia, and two unfamiliar middle-aged strangers. Wang Lianjia, being a minor and with the attempted assault charge, had been released after just a few days of education. You wretched girl, you dropped that lawsuit. Grandma started in with her habitual abuse. That house belongs to the boy. What does a daughter need a house for? Say whatever you have to say in court, I replied, gathering my books to leave. Wang Lianjie grabbed my backpack strap. I fixed him with an icy stare, and the flesh on his face twitched before he let go. If I see you in front of me again, I'll beat you every single time, I spat. The two strangers stepped forward, blocking my path. Wang Yanan, right? The plump woman began, overly familiar. We're your grandmothers, well, distant relatives, here to mediate. You focus on your studies. When you marry, you'll leave from the family home. Your brother will carry you to the car. We'll be your family. Their little scheme was so transparent. As if I should be grateful, for what? That grandma didn't sell me off for a bride price and let me go to school. A wave of bitterness washed over me. There's nothing to discuss. From now on, we don't know each other. The plump woman reached for me. I dodged and shouted, kidnappers, someone's trying to rob me. The mall was crowded, and security arrived quickly. Despite all four of their protests, the guards threw them out. Before they were gone, I looked at the plump woman and said, don't come looking for me again. Or I'll make sure your son has no heirs. See if I won't. Back off now. And you can still have grandma's share of the house. A few days later, Attorney Sue told me the deal was done. The plump woman bought it at half market price. Grandma and I each got 300,000. How dutifully that woman would care for grandma afterwards was no longer my concern. I later heard the downstairs garage was converted into a small room. Presumably, that's where grandma ended up, with the money. I first bought a phone and messaged by Rang to apologize. Sorry, I didn't have a phone before. Something came up suddenly and I couldn't tell you. I skipped our very first tutoring session. I was worried about you that day. I asked the shop for their security footage. Rang replied quickly, then proactively asked, who were the others besides your grandmother? You can tell me. Didn't you say you trusted me? Faced with the concern in his text, I relented and told him the whole story from beginning to end. Do you want me to help you? His message carried a clear anger, completely different from his usual feigned aloofness. I couldn't help but smile, replying, no need, I can handle it myself. But, want to go teach Wang Lianjia a lesson together? It was an offhand remark, but Rang took it seriously. That day, in a narrow alley, we cornered Wang Lianjia. Let me go, please, no more, he wailed, hearing footsteps in the distance. Rang grabbed my hand and we ran. That felt good, thank you, I gasped, leaning against a wall to catch my breath. Rang's eyes were bright, his usual composure returning. After the Gaokao, once we're in university, I'll be waiting for your explanation about that misunderstanding. You still remember that, I said, slightly embarrassed. After settling on a tutoring schedule, I rented a small apartment and packed my daily revision timetable to the brim. Effort determines your floor, talent determines your ceiling. Getting into Tsinghua wasn't something you could achieve by just talking about it. I slept only 4 hours a day, studying with a single-minded focus. In this life, I absolutely would not leave any regrets. Summer break ended quickly. After school started, I prepared a farewell gift for Rang. We won't be desk mates next semester, so this is for you. Rang looked up and tapped the test paper on his desk. I didn't get you a farewell gift. You getting into a top-tier university would be the best gift for me. I smiled like a doting old mother, my tone deliberately mature. Rang reached out and ruffled my hair. The next day, I saw Rang again in Mr. whose class. My dad donated another building to the school. Might as well use the privilege, he said, unfurling a math test. These two problems are tough. I paid a fortune for them. Want to give them a shot? I was instantly hooked. Let me try. Math is a subject that respects time. You get out what you put in, free from teacher Gao's targeting. Rang and I settled into studying peacefully in Mr. whose class, although it was a regular level class with moderately difficult problems. Mr. who didn't force us to listen to lectures. Instead, he let us study independently and gave us extra tutoring during evening self-study, a style that suited me perfectly. I watched my grades climb step by step, getting closer and closer to Zhou Ximian's rank. Rang scores were steadily improving to 310th, 155th, 33rd. After the final exams of the first semester of senior year, Shirlian recited my rankings from these 3 tests, utterly amazed. That's faster than a rocket. She sat in front of me and turned around. What did I do to deserve sitting in front of a genius like you? It's just 33rd place, still miles behind Lingling, chimed in Zhu Rui, Chen Lingling's lackey. Her tone dripping with sarcasm, still better than some people who can't even crack the top 33, Shirlian shot back without hesitation. She had a lawyer for an uncle and was sharp-tongued. No matter what, you're still worse than someone who has the nerve to claim they'll get into Tsinghua, Zhu Rui retorted defiantly. Even if I don't get into Tsinghua, I'm still better than you, I said, lifting my gaze to meet hers, then looking directly at Chen Lingling. Want to make a bet? Whoever ranks lower on the next exam has to go to the school gate and shout I'm the loser 3 times. You dare. Chen Lingling had done well this semester and, provoked by my challenge, immediately flared up. Who's scared of you? You're on. I pulled Shirlian into the classroom. Bai Rang was still catching up on sleep. He was much better this semester compared to freshman and sophomore years, at least staying awake in class now. Stirred up by Zhu Rui, Shirlian stopped gossiping and went straight to her seat to work on problems. This time, you'll definitely surpass Zhou Xinian, Bai Rang said, having woken up at some point. He knew better than anyone how hard I'd been working to cover 2 years of high school material in 1 semester. I had squeezed every minute dry, even timing my water breaks and bathroom trips. If I had been a bit careless during the high school entrance exam, for the college entrance exam, I absolutely would not allow failure. The second mock exam will be tough. I want to crush Zhou Xinian in one go. Chen Lingling is just collateral damage, I said, shaking my fist, but Bai Rang caught it in his hand. It's okay to study for revenge. But don't forget, you're studying mostly for yourself, Bai Rang said. His voice uncharacteristically gentle. A good university will give you more choices and let you leave behind all the people who cause you pain. Free words of wisdom for you. Fight on, girl. The final exam results came out quickly. I was ranked first in the grade, and I beat the second-place student by over 30 points. How can the top student be in a regular class? Teacher Gao burst into the office, snatched the results sheet in disbelief, and froze when he saw the name, Wang Yanan. The other teachers, already accustomed to my rocket-like ascent, weren't surprised at all. There's still 1 semester left, 130 days. Teacher who? We might just get a Tsinghua University candidate, one teacher joked. She was specially admitted after all. Look at these grades. Ever since she joined Teacher Who's class, her attitude towards studying has completely changed. Congratulations, Teacher Who. Hearing the congratulations that should have been his. Teacher Gao's face twisted with resentment. He went to find Zhou Xinian, unwilling to accept it. She used to be so much worse than you. You were both specially admitted. There's no reason she can score this high and you can't. Looking into Teacher Gao's expectant eyes, Zhou Xinian felt a crushing weight, as if he might collapse under it. I walked past them without a glance. Honestly, after hearing Bai Rang's words, I had already decided to give up on revenge. I've been given a second chance at life, and I don't want hatred to blind me. I just want to stay away from all this and pour all my energy into getting into university. Tsinghua might be a distant dream, but the higher you aim, the more it fuels your drive. I don't want to have any regrets. Shirlian dragged me to class 1. Chen Lingling, you haven't forgotten what you said, have you? Chen Lingling's face flushed bright red, and she stammered. I just know you. You cheated on the exam. You have no integrity, defeated rival. I threw the exact words Teacher Gao once used to insult me right back at her. Bai Rang was right, but sometimes, a sharp retort is just good for the soul. This second chance is about rising above the muck, not getting tangled up with rotten people. During the second semester of senior year, 2 things became the talk of the school. Nan. Congratulations on this 3rd mock exam. You scored 3 points higher than the top student from No. 1 high. Shirlian's gossip was always the most up-to-date, and, you know what? Zhou Xinian has gone crazy with studying. The more he takes exams, the worse he does. He's almost fallen out of the top 100. Zhou Xinian's ability to handle pressure really was poor. In my previous life, his success was driven by sheer, ruthless determination, but in this life, that determination had turned inward, consuming him. All right. That's enough. The college entrance exam is in 20 days. No more gossip. I stopped her, deciding to pay no more attention to news about Zhou Xinian. Bai Rang, Shirlian, where are your practice tests? Hand them over. Let your dad here help you correct them. Shirlian shrieked in protest, while Bai Rang remained as unflappably calm as ever. On the day of the college entrance exam, as I put down my pen after the final question on the biology paper, I understood for the first time what fulfillment truly meant. Relying on others will always let you down, only you can grasp your own destiny. After the exams, I treated Bairang to a meal. This is a farewell gift. It cost me a huge chunk of my tutoring earnings, I said, handing him a brand new gaming console, something I'd specifically bought for him. Bairang accepted the gift and looked up at me. Now, can you explain that misunderstanding? He actually still remembered. After my parents divorced, I became a kid without a home. Bairang's voice was low. Whether I was at my dad's place or my mom's, if anything went wrong, I was always the one to blame. No one ever believed me. You were the first person to say I believe you. His skin was pale, his cheeks faintly flushed, and his gaze was intense and sincere. I like you. Be my girlfriend. Having been hurt too deeply in my past life, I was truly scared. Looking into his earnest eyes, I fled. I'm sorry. I don't do long-distance relationships. With that, I practically ran away, my heart aching with a sour, bitter feeling. I should have just bought him a basketball. What a waste of money. Crying my poor person tears, I threw myself into my part-time job, a bumper harvest. Wang Yanan from our school achieved outstanding results in the Gaokao, clinching the top spot in the provincial science stream. The school's official WeChat account took an unconventional approach, announcing the good news with a metaphor: a large mango weighing 697 grams, ranking first in the province, all to circumvent the policy restrictions on promoting top scorers. But no, Tu High School went absolutely wild with joy, setting off fireworks for 3 straight days, practically wanting the whole world to know. As the large mango herself, I received the school's most VIP treatment. What about Bairang? How did he do, finally managing to deal with all the congratulations? I quickly asked Shirlianlian. He went abroad. Shirlianlian, who did pretty well herself, was even more eager for gossip. Zhou Xinian only got into a second-tier university. I heard he's planning to retake the exams. I didn't ask for more about Zhou Xinian, but I found myself thinking about Bairang. Teacher who said Bairang's results were to be kept confidential, so it seemed he did well too. I sent Bairang a WeChat message with a photo from Tsinghua's opening ceremony attached. Come back soon, school started. Dad will take you out to see the world and check out Tsinghua's auditorium. Soon, Bairang replied, just meet me at the auditorium. Without me, you might not even find your way there. I was puzzled, until the day of the opening ceremony, when I saw Bairang standing at the auditorium entrance, wearing a Tsinghua school uniform and holding a student ID. How did you get in here? I asked in surprise. Maybe my dad donated another building to Tsinghua, he said with a laugh, his tone teasing. Before I could react, he gently pulled me into a hug, his voice soft yet firm. A reunion gift for you, Nan Nan. We're on the same campus now. Doesn't that mean we're not in a long-distance relationship anymore? Sunlight streamed through the auditorium's glass windows, spilling over us, warm and bright. In this lifetime, I not only got into Tsinghua, leaving my muddy past behind, but I also met someone who was willing to believe in me and wait for me. The future looks promising. Everything is just right. That's the end of today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave a happy every day in the comments. Wei Guang wishes everyone happiness every single day.